What's going on, FA Nation? Welcome to Fantasy Alarm DFS NBA live stream. John Impemba here with James Grande to break down Monday's 8-game DFS NBA main slate. James, how's it going?
It's going, man. I just said I felt like today is Friday, which is not. I don't know if that's a good
Monday.
thing or a bad thing. Yeah, I think that's a bad
Felt
thing.
like
going
today is
forward
Friday.
for the week, but I mean, I got the slate down pretty pat. So I mean, that's something. But it's definitely not Friday, unfortunately.
No, it's very much not Friday. I mean, I guess it's like a good mindset if you think like every day is like Friday because it means like you're looking forward to tomorrow, the weekend, and so I guess there can be some positiveness coming out of that. We've had a lot of sort of not injury news in terms of like guys being ruled out, but just more so guys ruled in and whatnot today. We are still waiting on some players, however. So why don't you give us a look at guys that are playing today, guys who are still questionable, and go over some of the high game totals.
Yeah, let me break out the handy dandy notepad that I have here in front of me. Like you mentioned, a lot of lineup notes more than anything. Rudy Gay out, Jakob Poeltl starting, something that we kind of said could happen. They're going to need big bodies. We said that on the podcast last night with Drummond and Blake. So Jakob Poeltl starting at center. Joe Harris and Damari Carroll and Rodney Hollis-Jefferson all officially out. Brooklyn on a back-to-back. Hate it, but, Shabazz Napier, highest projected on player on the slate. Shabazz Napier. Just want to say that one more time.
Yeah, we talked about that on the podcast last night. That it's possible.
I know. I'm just saying, projected highest owned player on the slate. It's just crazy. Paul Millsap and Gary Harris back into the starting lineup tonight. So, your boy Mason Plumlee back to the bench. Sorry for your loss there. Marvin Bagley available to play tonight. I can't imagine it's going to be many minutes. We haven't officially gotten a word if it's going to be on a limited basis or not, but he is in. Dylan Brooks is out. Justin Holiday, extra minutes there. Kyle Kuzma is still really the biggest news we're waiting on. He's currently questionable. DJ Wilson ruled out. You mentioned in the live chat, and you messaged to me over chat, our personal chat. You said little Ursan could be in play here tonight. I don't hate that. Iman Shumpert ruled out, but I think I was on Justin Jackson last night, but Marvin Bagley kind of kills that. I think so. Justin Jackson kind of off my radar. Evan Turner, Mo Harkless, both currently probable. Harkless is obviously the better play there when healthy. Mitchell Robinson, Frank Nikitalina, both out. Dante Exum is out. Etuan Moore, another one we're waiting on, is currently questionable. Nikola Mirotic out. And then all the Celtics guys, Kyrie's in, Marcus Morris starting, and your boy, Time Lord, Robert Williams is playing. Something you mentioned last night. I mean, it could just really cut into the time for like everybody. Horford, it could cut into Tice time. It's just going to be not a situation that we really want to.
One of the few times we haven't recommended a center against the Nets.
Right.
Which it's going to burn us. But
right. 20 minutes of Horford, 45 fantasy points.
Yeah, exactly. Now, James, this is cut you off with the game totals here real quick. This is an NBA live stream. Football season is just coming to an end. Right. But it's also the start of baseball season in terms of fantasy baseball.
Right.
And we at Fantasy Alarm know what makes champions. So if you want to win your fantasy baseball league this year, you need Jim Bowden's Fantasy Baseball Draft Guide. You get Jim's rankings with tiers, auction values. You get his sleepers, rookies, and busts. You even get front office breakdowns for every team in the major leagues from the GM himself and Howard Bender, plus over 50 other feature articles from the Fantasy Alarm team. You want personal help? We got that too. You get experts in live chat 12 hours a day to help you with your personal questions about your drafts or upcoming season. Get 50% off immediately at fantasyalarm.com/draft now. Use promo code LIVE to get an additional 25% off Jim Bowden's draft guide for just $15. That's fantasyalarm.com/draft now, promo code LIVE. So sorry to interrupt you there in the middle of your basketball breakdown there of injuries, but as we transition into totals, felt it was a good time to plug the MLB draft guide because how soon is too soon to start talking fantasy baseball, right?
Never, especially when you have a savant in our presence. So
actual former MLB GM. So
Right.
check that out, guys. FantasyLime.com/draft now. Promo code live. Get a big discount on Draft Guide. Definitely worth the buy. That being said, James, let's take a look at the totals that we have for tonight's slate.
Yeah, let's just quickly run them down. We have 5 games currently at 220 or better. Boston, Brooklyn, 220. Boston 10.5 point favorites at home. We have, Denver, Houston at one time was 221. I mentioned last night at whatever time we did the podcast, very early. It was only it dropped 6 points within like an hour of the line being out. It's only at 215. Lakers, Dallas, we have a total 222.5, which has risen 2 points. Dallas 8-point favorites, start at 7. Does that make you think Kuzma's out? Spread goes up, but only a point. But
yeah, I think it definitely makes me think maybe Kuzma's out. I don't think all of a sudden like having like Barea and all them ruled in really moved the needle at all. So yeah, it makes me think that Kuzma's probably not playing in this one.
Orlando, Sacramento, 221.5, down from 224. Interesting. So 2.5 points. And then New York, Portland, 221. And then we have some, decent totals, 214.5 in Memphis, New Orleans, 213 in San Antonio, Detroit. And actually 222 in Utah, Milwaukee, which is crazy. Just thinking about both of them, top 5 defensive teams. Milwaukee 4.
Such a high pace for Milwaukee.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that
it's just 4th and 5th in defensive efficiency, and they're 222 total. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird.
You're not wrong. Ready to jump on over and break down?
Yes, sir.
All righty, let's kick it off at point guard. Dame Lillard, Kyrie Irving at the top 2 price point guards on FanDuel. I can't go Irving. Coming back after the eye injury. But it's also, like we said, it's a double-digit point spread. I know Lillard is in a double-digit spread game as well, but Brooklyn's also now resting, 2 of their better players. So I just think that game is even more of a blowout likely than before. I like Lillard in this matchup. I know you were worried a little bit with the Portland blowout and with guys like McCollum that I had mentioned to you, and some lineup building I was doing. But I like the matchups pretty much all the way down the line for Portland, pretty much like position by position. I think they have just great matchups here. So I'm in on Lillard. If you're paying up at point guard, I don't think it's going to be a popular option to pay up at point guard tonight. I think a lot of people are going to go more mid-tier. Right. So paying up, I think could be contrarian. And I think Lillard, we saw him go for 50 fantasy points in this first matchup against the Knicks. So we know the ceiling's there, and he's at home where he's shooting much better this year. Somehow the fantasy points per game are lower at home for Lillard, but he's shooting like 30% better. Something pretty.
It's not that I hate, you can't hate the matchup. The matchup is fantastic. It's just, does this game stay close? I'm with you on Irving. I don't think Brooklyn keeps it close. Second night of a back-to-back. Unless Spencer Dinwiddie has one of those magical. We mentioned on the podcast, D'Angelo Russell has been really bad in back-to-backs this year, and he's their best player. So I don't see that game staying close. But I'm with you on Lillard in tournaments. I'm with you on McCollum in tournaments. I just get a little worried when it comes to cash because, yes, obviously to become a blowout, we have to have people to score, and people have to get us to the blowout. But at 9K, do we only see 3/4 of Lillard? How much time do we see of him? I guess the thing is the Knicks did play in LA, so it's not like they traveled far. It wasn't far travel. They've had a day off in between, so they should be well rested for this game.
They have capable scorers too, so it's not as if they're an offensively inept team. They have guys that can score the ball. They just can't defend it.
Yeah, the other end of the ball is the issue for sure.
Right. So I think for that fact, I still think that there could be a lot of points scored in this game, even if it does end up being a blowout. Okay. Next guy down the list on FanDuel, and someone that we've had a lot of questions about in chat, mainly because I keep on telling people to play him, and they keep questioning why. But Mike Conley gets his matchup against New Orleans. Alfred Payton is in the lineup here for Pelicans, and he is a horrible defender. He's at a 110 defensive rating this year, and that's only because he's only played a handful of games. He hasn't played enough for that to be even worse. Last season, he had a 117 defensive rating when he was with Phoenix, and he had a 115 defensive rating when he was with Orlando. Horrible defender. People point to that first game where Conley had like a subpar effort. Well, Payton didn't play in that game, so if we're expecting 30 minutes of Elf Payton on the floor, Conley I think is going to have no problem at all in that matchup. So if we're going game stack Memphis, New Orleans, or even if you want to pay up a little bit on Conley, I think he's going to go low owned again because people are going to go to like De'Aaron Fox. I think will be popular here. So I like Conley in this matchup against New Orleans.
I think there's 50-point upside. I mean, we're getting a insanely huge pace-up spot here. New Orleans is the sixth fastest team in the league. Memphis is last.
Dead last. Yeah.
So we're getting like a significant pace bump for Memphis. Obviously, that's ideal. Obviously, the matchup against Elfrid Payton, if you look at DVP, they're 27th. So we've said this for 2 years on our podcast. We've said this for a full live stream in our chat. We attack the Pelicans at the guard and the wing. Mm-hmm. And it's just a really good matchup. Like you said, Elfrid Payton didn't play in the first matchup. That could have had something to do with it. Drew Holiday's a very good on-ball defender. Sure, Holiday could potentially guard Conley here, but just the fact that, in tournaments, how low owned he's going to be and how everyone's going to go to Napier and everyone's going to go down to the mid-tier, I think it's just a really contrarian, really interesting tournament play with really high upside.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I'm a big fan of Conley tonight. That mid-tier, as you mentioned, not necessarily mid-tier, I guess. De'Aaron Fox is the same cost. I think a lot of people will go to him if they're going to be game stacking that Kings Orlando matchup. It makes a lot of sense. Jamal Murray against Houston, I like in GPP tournaments. I think that's a good spot. Then we get into guys like Lonzo Ball, Emmanuel Mudiay. Elf Payton is still in the conversation there. I know you don't love it against Conley, and I don't love it against Conley either, but if Etuan Moore ends up not playing, like there's just other rotational minutes that sort of could go Payton's way there. Dinwiddie, as you mentioned, yep. Derek White, I like. Where are you going in this sort of mid-tier point guard?
I think the last two guys you just said are the most intriguing to me. I think Dinwiddie, listen, this is a guy we just saw 2 weeks ago at 7.5, which was insane. And he's back under 6K. Nobody for Brooklyn's playing tonight. He's likely going to start. We saw this earlier in the year with Harris out. We saw Dinwiddie start. So I expect Dinwiddie to start here. I think there's upside. I don't obviously love the matchup, but I fully expect Marcus Smart to be guarding D'Angelo Russell. I don't think that's like crazy to think, right? Marcus Smart guards the opposing team's best scorer. That is D'Angelo Russell, which puts Kyrie potentially on Spencer Dinwiddie here. So I really like Dinwiddie. And I think Derek White, you mentioned the shooting's really, really, really good right now. And you brought up a good point. He doesn't take a lot of threes. He's kind of like following in DeMar DeRozan's footsteps, where it's just mid-range, it's close to the basket, it's high percentage shots more often than not. And I think Rudy Gay off the floor helps him. Yeah. He gets a little usage bump. He averages nearly a fantasy point per minute with Rudy Gay off the floor. I don't necessarily think the minutes are impacted, but I think there's more shot attempts. There's obviously more rebounds because Rudy Gay's been playing more power forward. So I really like Derek White. I think, Bryn Forbes is also a really nice play in that San Antonio backcourt. He just plays so many minutes. He probably has, I would probably say White has the upside and Forbes, just because I know he just played, I know he only gave us 13 against Memphis and granted, very tough, game against Conley. I think he has a safer floor than White. Imagine White doesn't go 8 for 9 from the floor, he doesn't really, I don't know. I think they both have semi-safe floors. I would just lean Forbes probably for price too.
That's fair. And Reggie Jackson and Reggie Bullock have the two worst defensive rating among rotation players there in Detroit as well. So matchups that they'll have, matchups they can take advantage of. So I'm definitely in on White. We mentioned the value already. Shabazz Napier, we have projected on Fantasy Alarm as the highest owned player of the slate. He's under 4K on both sites. He's $3,900 on FanDuel. He's $3,400 on DraftKings. You got to play him in tournaments. You probably have to play him in cash games over on FanDuel, where if he does do nothing for you, he doesn't count, and he's basically a mid-price player. So, Do you play him in cash games on DraftKings knowing the ownership could be there?
I'm leaning towards you have to play him in cash and single entries as of right now. I mean, knowing he's 30% owned, and our ownership projections for large field tournaments. We know, as you know, the industry knows, large field tournaments, you're going to get double that, 2.5, 3 times the ownership in cash games. So I think you have to. I think he's fine to fade in tournaments. I really do. Because I don't like, he's going to get minutes if it's a blowout, but like, Boston has good secondary defenders too. Like Terry Rozier is a good defender in his own right. Jaylen Brown could present problems like height wise if they were ever to like cross paths. So like I tweeted about an hour ago, I said, the full fade Nets train all aboard. Like who's coming with me? So I think cash you got to, single entries you got to. Tournaments you probably have. Tournaments you probably have to, but you can fade them.
Yeah. I mean, I have the same thing. The thing that I have a hard time getting off of him is the fact that we talked about him on the podcast last night as just a man who's already in the rotation, already getting minutes and producing, and now knowing that there's an opening for a bigger role and the fact that there's a blowout he's going to play. For me, I can't fade that opportunity. But this is the Nets. This is a back-to-back for the Nets, and we've seen crazier things happen from them. Last year, they were unplayable in back-to-backs. You literally could not play them at all. No matter what spot in the rotation they were, there was no guarantee that they would see anything. So a little bit of better situation this year. Over at shooting guard at the top, James Harden, obviously. We have him as the highest owned pay-up play. He's in the cash, all the cash lineups. I think you just have to play him in cash.
Yep.
I talked about in that first matchup that he had against Denver. He put up, 54 fantasy points, took 16 shots, and went 2 for 10 from 3. Over the last 2 games, he's taken 67 total shots. He's taken 40 threes. So he had 54 fantasy points while shooting half the amount of times that he's been shooting them lately. So I'm not going to do the math and say like 100 points is in play, but I mean, like, could be. Like Jamal Murray's not good defense. He's going to see probably Gary Harris, right? But I mean, it's still, I mean,
Harris played the first game, and he put up 50-something fantasy points.
Yeah.
So,
did Paul play in that game? Do we know? I actually didn't look see if Paul was in that game or not. He was in that game. So take away Paul, take away Eric Gordon. So the James Harden show. So cash games, you have to put him in your lineup.
Yep.
There's no way to fade. You can put him in GVPs too. He's just going to probably be the highest on spend up in GVPs as well. So I'm never going to tell you not to play these guys, but I mean, if I'm picking between the 3, Harden above all today for sure. Where are you looking at the next tier below?
I think Doncic is fine for tournaments. I mean, last night we mentioned on the podcast, we brought it up. Weird that he's played like almost exclusively at power forward, according to Basketball Reference. If that's true, I think it's still fine because the Lakers don't defend front courts. I would love it if he actually played shooting guard because they're dead last. The Lakers are dead last against shooting guard. So obviously Luka Doncic firmly in play. Drew Holiday, probably a cash guy. I don't think we need to do it in that pace down spot, but I mean, he just puts up 40 points no matter really the matchup. You like CJ McCollum. I like him in tournaments. You were more willing to deploy him in all formats. I just find him more volatile for cash games, and I think I'm comfortable with. I think I'd rather play Buddy Hield all formats than McCollum. And you know what's funny? Everyone's going to Bogdanovich because of his price, but like if Buddy Hield continues to shoot the way he's shooting, I don't think that this like 27, 29 to 32 actual point thing is going to slow down anytime soon.
No, and I mean, you mentioned it to me earlier. Sorry if I missed it. I was answering some questions here. That the Magic are the second worst team against three-point shooting. Did you say that?
Second worst. No, I did not.
Yeah, second worst team against three-point shooting. Buddy Hield shooting 44% from 3 this year. So and it's not like he takes a couple of games. He takes 5, 6, 7 threes a game. He's a shooter. That's what they drafted him for. That's what he was in college. So yeah, this matchup is just spot on. I just don't. I went on XM with Howard today. He asked me who my must play was, and I said Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield has to be in your lineup.
Let's go.
So yeah, I'm in on it. I'm in on the Kings, and it's weird that you have Buddy Hield, and then you have for a couple $100 less you have Bogdan because you really have to play them both. Hield obviously the more efficient 3-point shooter. Like Bogdan's still shooting 36% from three. He's still so. I have a lineup on DraftKings I posted up on Fantasy Alarm where they're both in it. I think you can play them both today.
Yeah,
they're the two primary scorers in this matchup against Orlando. So I'm in on both Kings guys.
And no Shumpert. So they're just going to play they're going to both play 40 minutes. So
each one more is officially closer to doubtful today. So
what?
Closer to doubtful.
Again, these Pelicans, I hate them so much. I hate. I mean, that doesn't do anything for me, to be honest. Maybe it.
Like, maybe.
He doesn't. He just is a guy. He stands. He's a filler. He stands on the court. He stands in the court and gets to say he played next to Anthony Davis.
Pretty much, I agree with you. So we talked about Beal. I liked McCollum again. Tim Hardaway Jr. just such a bad defender.
Right.
It was like a 113 defensive rating or something like that. Horrible. You mentioned the blowout potential there. So you like him more in GBPs, and you weren't wrong. Like if you look at his game logs, it's like he's either going for 40 or he's going for 20, and that is just the definition of a GPP play. He went for 40 against the Knicks in that first matchup. So, and on McCollum, I like KCP over Hart as long as Kuzma's ruled out. I think we can go to that spot against Dallas. Where else are you in here on shooting guard?
I love Gary Harris, and it sucks because he's weirdly, he's shooting guard exclusively. He's like one of 6 players in the whole NBA that DraftKings has listed as just one position. Yeah. He's the only shooting guard, but I think you play him on DraftKings. I think that's where he's only $5K. He's back in the starting lineup. He's 26, 31 minutes. He's only been back for 3 games and he's already up to 31 minutes. He's gonna shadow James Harden. He put up 35 fantasy points last game. He put up 27 against Houston the first time around, which gets us a little over 5x. I think he's very viable all formats in this on this slate. Probably Austin Rivers. I think he's fine.
I was surprised that Rivers we don't have projected to be as highly owned because he's under 5K on both sides. He's played over 40 minutes in 3 straight games. Yeah. So he's not getting off the floor and he's under $5,000. I honestly feel like he should be higher owned than he's going to be, I guess. I don't know if that's because everybody else is like, well, if I'm going to spend down, I might as well just go all the way down to Shabazz or something like that. Not Shabazz, but Shabazz, Napier. So yeah, I don't know. Rivers to me is interesting that he's not. We don't have projected highly owned. That being said, I do like him a lot tonight. So,
I mean, it's a starting guy who is clearly. I mean, Capella is the number 2, I guess. But the only other creator, shot creator that Houston has is Austin Rivers right now, than Harden. So yeah, he's fine. He could be really intriguing. 4.7 playing 40 minutes. And he took 15 shots last game, 18 shots the game before. So if he takes 18 shots here at a sub 5K price tag, I don't hate it.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Let's see, where else do we have probably going on? Austin Rivers. I mean, Jaylen Brown, I know everybody's back, but if this is a blow-up, Brown could be a guy that gets kind of late run here for Boston. He played well when Marcus Morris and Kyrie Irving were ruled out. I had contemplated him in some GPP lineups tonight. He was good off the bench at times this year, even when everybody was healthy. So, I mean, you think about it that way, if he's going to play minutes against Brooklyn backups and this game gets out of hand and they rest some of the starters. Maybe Jalen off the bench is an interesting GPP option as well.
I don't think I have a lick of interest in Boston tonight.
That's fair. I won't argue with it.
I don't know.
Where do you stand on Justin Holiday?
I think he could. I think he could be a GPP flyer. No Dylan Brooks. Played 21 minutes in his debut. I think he could. I mean, it's a really good spot for Memphis. It's a really, really good spot for Memphis. Pace up, Memphis wings. I think he's fine. Like as a last piece for a tournament.
Okay, yeah, I get you there. Anybody else at shooting guard?
No, I think I'm ready to move on to small forward.
Alrighty, over at small forward, Giannis at the top. I have him in GPP lineups over Anthony Davis tonight. Just the fact that Memphis is the slowest pace team in the NBA. I know that means a pace up spot for Memphis, but it also means a pace down spot for the Pelicans. As I mentioned before, Marc Gasol, really good defender in his own right. Davis did go for 55 against them in that first matchup, but Gasol can go out, and defend him a little bit outside the paint as well. He's not really limited to being a post or paint player. So Giannis for me, top spot. I think at power forward, he's seeing either Derek Favors or Jay Crowder. So I think Giannis for me, top spend up if you're not going Harden.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, and this is the night that Davis goes for 100. So
probably the day we don't have the exposure, I definitely agree. Other than that, though, Ingram, and again, looking at FanDuel pricing now, Ingram with no Kuzma, Kyle Anderson's there. Yep. Gary Harris is a small forward on FanDuel as well. He's a shooting guard, as you mentioned, on DraftKings. Where are you in that next grouping?
I wanted to play Bielitsa, can't do it. I obviously love Gary Harris, like I just said. He's only 5K on DraftKings. Wish he was not a shooting guard or not a small forward on FanDuel. I wish they could just, meet in the middle. I think Kyle Anderson's, again, another wing player. He's going to be fine. I think more cashy than tournament play, but, I mean, he had a triple-double 2 games ago, so I guess anything is possible with Kyle Anderson in 2019. So I think he's fine. I think, so last night we were talking about Derek Favors, so I think he's fine. I know you wrote him up in the playbook. Do we think this is Jay Crowder night going up against Giannis? But, I don't think Jay Crowder's enough size to match up with Giannis.
Well, not many people have the size
right.
match up with them. My only thing with Crowder is that he can play more of a perimeter game.
Right.
Where if Favors has to get down the block against he's not gonna. Yeah. He's just gonna get swatted right back at him. He's not gonna. I don't think he really stands a chance. I like Favors more for the consistency that he's been showing of late, and the fact that if you look at DraftKings projections or DraftKings ratings wise, at least, and I think just overall DVP, the Bucks do actually allow fantasy points to the power forward position.
27th.
Yeah.
DVP.
So, yeah, they've allowed the 4th most. So I mean, that's an interesting thing. Maybe Giannis just doesn't care as much on the defensive end than he should. So yeah, I think both are in play. Crowder's cheaper, and he's a small forward on FanDuel, where he's a power forward, small forward. I think over on DraftKings, Favors is power forward only on FanDuel. So
right.
Yeah, I have both. I think both are interesting spots.
Okay, that's fair. If more as they progress, it feels more like a Jay Crowder 30+ minute day. But I do love the consistency Favors have showed. I mean, he's so talented. The knees are just, they've just given out.
It does seem that way. We have Harrison Barnes to be a pretty highly owned player tonight. Obviously, he had a tough night against Philadelphia. That was disappointing, but a little more research went into that. And Bolden, the kid that they're playing there now at power forward, Wilson Chandler out, has a 103 defensive rating. So, I mean, that's a big difference from what Wilson Chandler was getting on the field. So, I'm going to just toss that out there for Harrison Barnes. I know we mentioned that Luka Doncic plays a lot of power forward, but Barnes plays that position too. And
right.
I'm not going to take that too much away from him because if you look at all the other games before that, uber consistent. So, I have no problem going back to Barnes here against the Lakers, who, as you mentioned, struggle to defend front courts in general.
I mean, Barnes averaging 24 actual and 30, just under 36 DK points against the Lakers in 2 meetings. So,
yeah,
I mean, it's a pretty telltale sign of what the Lakers are doing defensively in their front court.
Yep, for sure. Mo Harkless, your boy. I think I'm actually on that train tonight.
I don't love the price tag, but the consistency is kind of undeniable, right? I mean, 3 straight games of 30. Yeah, consistency plus matchup. I don't like it on FanDuel. DK's fine, 4,500. I think that's. I mean, he gave us 25 fantasy points against OKC, shooting 2 for 9 from the floor. And it's just what he does. Like 8, 9, 9, 8 rebounds. We're not looking for points. The points are what get us the upside. He's the really good defender who rebounds the basketball. At least the steal in 6 straight games, and at least 2 blocks in 4 straight games. So I think Harkless is fine. 4,500 on DK is a nice price tag. He's 55, I believe, on FanDuel. That's a little scary, but that's okay.
Below him, Daniel House. He's been playing a lot of minutes of late. The production's been there now. It was like 6 straight games of 20-plus fantasy points on FanDuel. Another guy that we have projected sort of in the mid-teens of ownership. Thoughts on House here?
As long as he keeps getting the minutes, they're fine. James Harden has to pass to somebody sometimes.
Sure, does. Anybody else at small forward? You got an eye on Lance Stevenson, possibly?
If Kuzma's ruled out, I think Lance is a really interesting option. I think he's probably the most intriguing play to me over there. I think Lonzo and Ingram are pretty safe. KCP, Hart are all relatively safe, but I think Lance would be the most intriguing.
Yeah, I'm down with that. We just talked about Gerald Green in our subscriber chat. Yep, James and I are multitasking while we're on this live stream. Thoughts on Green here? GPP only play, I assume?
I mean, I think he could be a last piece for a cash game. Like, the question was him or Evan Turner or, like, Davis Bertans. Like, if you're picking between those 3, Green's the guy between the 3, in cash at least.
Right.
So, like, last piece, fine. I'd rather it, obviously, on FanDuel because you could drop the score, though.
Yep, I agree. Power forward, Anthony Davis. Again, never going to tell you not to play Anthony Davis. He has 100-point upside. It's a great matchup in terms of just any time he steps on the floor. He had 55 fantasy points the first time. Said the only thing that's keeping me off of him really is the fact that he's more expensive than Giannis, and he's in a big pace down spot with Memphis playing the slowest pace in the NBA. Right. That said, if he fits your lineup, if you like some other players in small forward and you don't like the power forward tier, like, play Anthony Davis. It's not gonna hurt you. So unless he gets hurt, which is also
which is very possible,
super possible, right? Like, I'm expecting both like Gasol and Davis like step on each other's foots at some point in time, and they both go out. Below them though, I like Blake Griffin a lot. I know you mentioned how we should be taking advantage of this San Antonio front court tonight. Yep. Even with Pirtle probably starting right over. With Gay out, or do we think Bertans starts with Gay?
No, they already announced it. Jakob Pirtle starting.
Yeah, so I mean, Pirtle, a bigger body. We liked him a little bit last year with Toronto at times when he would start, but still, I think Blake and Drummond are in good spots here. So I like Blake a lot. I like Aaron Gordon at here well against Sacramento. Where are you going sort of at this mid-tier, top-tier power forward after Davis?
I mean, those are probably the top 2 guys. I think Kuzma's really intriguing if he plays. If you want to put like a util for that late game, do a late swap with Kuzma, I think that's really intriguing. Noah Vonleh, fine for tournaments. Kevin Knox, fine for tournaments. Jaren Jackson Jr. just fouled out. The game hasn't started, but he just fouled out. So if we're like going down a little bit, I think JaMychal Green's a really interesting play. $3,900 on DK. I mean, he played like 29 minutes the other night, and yes, it was a blowout, but he was playing when it was a close game. So yeah. I think JaMychal Green's a really nice play, really nice pivot option. I think Jackson's actually could be a viable tournament option. It's just so hard to say he's not going to get 2 fouls within the first 2 minutes of the game.
No, I agree with you.
Who's he guarding? 2 of the more aggressive like big men in the league. So it's just I don't know.
You said Millsap's in the starting lineup. We've seen him come off the bench and tear it up of late. 2 of the last 3 games, he went for 35 and 39 fantasy points. This should be a good matchup for him against Houston, just kind of the pace-wise. Probably matched up against PJ Tucker, right? So, I mean, Tucker, good on-ball defender, obviously, and Millsap in 25 minutes only scored 13 points, 17 fantasy points in a matchup against Houston earlier this year. That said, I think in tournaments you can certainly go there given his kind of recent form and sort of how we're expecting this game to go, assuming he, plays the minutes we've been seeing from him.
Yeah, I mean, I think the minutes plus the production are where we're looking. Like, they're just trending all of it's just trending upwards. And the production. I mean, this is a guy who has always been like sneaky good in the steals department, and we've seen that to the last 3 games, 2 and 4. He's been really good on the glass. I think he obviously has an advantage over Tucker there too. So I think the peripherals come tonight for Millsap, and he has a big game.
We talked a lot about Mo Harkless and his targeting Kevin Knox's bad defense. Well, Harkless is just as bad of a defender. Knox listed as power forward in FanDuel, but he plays primarily small forward for the Knicks. I think you can play Knox. He's blowout proof. My one gripe with him, and I say it all the time, is that he like only scores and gets you like 5 rebounds and doesn't do anything else. He rarely gets you blocks. He maybe will get you an assist. Maybe he'll get you a steal. So if he's not going for like 20, like high 20s actual with 6 rebounds, like he's never really going to hit 40 fantasy points for you. But he's down to 5.9K, so 5x is 30. He can get you 30. I like Knox here on this slate.
I mean, you said it. He's blowout proof, so he's going to play minutes. That's why he'd probably be the one guy I would consider in a cash game format, just because from the Knicks, because he's just going to play all the minutes. Yep,
I agree with you. Al Farouk Amino has been popping off of late. Are you in on him?
I like him in pace-up spots. This is kind of a neutral spot. Portland is 16th. The Knicks are 13th. So it's not like any. I would rather like go down and spend on Kurix or Bertans in a tournament over Amino. But Amino's going to be 1% owned. So from that perspective, you could play him.
You mentioned Kurix. Rank these power forwards on FanDuel from the Nets. We have Kurix, Ed Davis, Kenneth Faried. Where do you think they go? How are you playing them?
Kurix all formats, just because he's priced so he's free. Like it's just they also don't have anyone. I mean, he's their starting small forward regardless. So Kurix, Davis, Faried, large field tournament. Building 100 lineups, I think you get Faried in like 5 of them. Large field tournament, 100 lineups, you put Davis in like 7 of them.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's fair. I think Davis is probably like the more stable producer of the group. So, I kind of like there. No Faried love.
100 lineups.
Put him 1. Put him 1, 2.
2 to 5. I mean, like we saw it. If he gets minutes 27, there's clear upside. So, like if you're building a whole bunch of lineups, throw him in a couple.
Yep. Move over to center. Nikola Jokic at the top there against Houston. Again, a guy went for 72 against Charlotte the other day. Went for 65 against the Knicks. Finally getting to see that production from him, because there was a period of time this season where he was giving us like mid-30s, low 40s, and just couldn't pay for it. Well, now if he's up in the 50s and 60s, definitely can pay for him here against Houston. Should be a great matchup for him, So if you're spending up, he's the spend up. Below him, though, some really, really interesting guys. And I think center is about as deep as it's been all year on the slate. Vucevic, Nurkic, Drummond, Capella, Randall's there. You get Gobert, who's going to eat up Brook Lopez. Like, Brook Lopez isn't going to get a single rebound. Doesn't want him. So, I mean, where are you going at center? There's Willie Cauley-Stein. I mean, there's so many options at center tonight.
So Jokic, Vukovic, right up at the top, both elite plays. I think you could play them in all formats. It's going to be obviously tough on DraftKings to get both of them in with Harden. I think Nurkic is a really strong tournament play. I think Capella is a really strong tournament play to pair up with Harden. Marcus Gasol seems too cheap at 7K, big pace-up spot. DeAndre Jordan, Willie Cauley-Stein, cash game guys. They're both going to be highly owned on DK, both too cheap. I love Andre Drummond tonight, at least on DraftKings, 8,100. Just too cheap. Jakob Poeltl, yes, he's a bigger body, but he's only going to play like 25 minutes max. So Drummond's going to see 15 minutes against who? LaMarcus Aldridge. He'll eat Aldridge up. So I love Drummond tournaments. I think Jakob Poeltl is fine. He's probably a better play on FanDuel because you could drop the lower scorer. But also at the same Yeah, but also at the same time, like you want to get one of the guys we just mentioned. So is he a better play on FanDuel? Like you could just play one of them plus him on DK. So I think both of them are in play. JaVale is probably okay for a tournament. He's flashing a lot of upside. Zubek started the other day and then didn't start the second half. So
Why play your
he's
best
just
player? Who knows?
right. Right. So, I mean, other than that, I think it's really. Do you have anyone else that you have interest in? Like Al Horford versus Brooklyn, but does he even crack 20 minutes if this game's over at half? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, so my only thing with him is I don't know if they're trying to work him up in minutes. So like maybe like they want him to get his 25 minutes regardless, just to build up that knee strength or whatever. So there's that potential. Did you mention DeAndre Jordan? Did we?
Yeah, him and Cauley Stein.
Okay, yeah. So that's about it for me. Cantor and GBPs talk about Brooke Lopez stretched the floor against Gobert. I think we just recently see this matchup, or am I making that up? I feel like
I think we did just see this matchup pretty recently.
right. Like I felt like there was a spot here. Anyways, maybe I'm making it up.
I think you are actually making it up.
Okay, so Brooke Lopez again. He's gonna stretch the floor. Gobert. I don't think he's gonna be able to go out there and get him. Actually, I remember what I was talking about. It was Gobert versus the Knicks, and I thought that Cornette was gonna draw him out to the 3-point line, and I think Cornette actually had a good game there against Utah, if I remember correctly. So maybe Brooke Lopez because we have to end the live stream on Brooke Lopez.
I hate that we have to end the live stream on Brooke Lopez.
I know. Good luck, everybody. We're in subscriber chat answering your questions. So if you got them, go over to fantasyalarm.com, get a subscriber chat, and shoot us your line of questions. Good luck, everybody.
Good luck tonight, guys and gals.